Welcome back to Long Delays Hobbies. Today we are going to be painting up another miniature from the War of the Rohirrim film, Freca, the Lord of the West March. This is a resin miniature from Forge World in a lovely angry pose, just as he is about to get one-punched by Helmhammerhand, who I previously painted on another video. Feel free to check that out. This miniature does have quite a bit of tricky details. The color patterns are not that difficult, but the trim is probably what's going to trip you up with this miniature. We're going to start by painting his cloak with Corvus Black Air, which is a very dark gray color. We're going to use that to differentiate his cloak from the feathers that are at the very top of his cloak, which are going to be painted actually black. Next up, we're going to be painting Freca's tunic. This is a very light gray color in the film, so we're going to be using Administratum Gray Air. And we're going to be working our way up from Administratum Gray Air Ultimate to a near white color. So there's a lot of straps and so forth, so just be careful to work around those straps, which will be colored, which will be painted using different colors later on. We're going to be painting his wrist gauntlets and his leather straps and belts using Rhinox hide. We will also be using Rhinox hide to paint the leather coverlet that is on the front of the miniature. Next up, to paint Freca's skin, we're going to be using Bugman's Glow. And to paint Freca's boots, we're going to base coat them in XV88. Now, there are some black straps on Freca's boots. We're going to go back over those later with Baden Black. But just to make sure we get into all those little cracks and crevices, we will start by base coating the entirety of them with some XV88. He looks a bit like he's wearing galoshes at this point, but that's okay. We're going to fix that later. For his hair, we're going to use some dryad bark. That will give him that Rohan brown hair. We're also going to use dryad bark on the rest of his facial hair, his beard, his very thick burly mustache, and so on. And now we're going to go and use Baden Black to pick out those black straps. Just get a pointy brush and pick them out. They are sculpted very well in this miniature because it is forged with resin. And I used Baden Black Air here just to go through carefully one at a time and pick them out. In a couple of cases I had to go over them twice because it is a thin air paint. I then used a Baden Black Air to go over the fur cloak that he's wearing around his neck. Next, we're going to use some Mournfang Brown Air to paint the little straps that he has on the left and right sides of the miniature that connect his belt to, I suppose, his girdle. There's something in the back that's not visible here. And now we're going to pick out the gold details of the model. This is arguably the most tricky part of painting the miniature. He has a brooch on his right side. The trickier part is painting the little lines of trim. So just, of course, make sure you have a brush with a point on it, a very fine point. You want to avoid having the gold dry out, so make sure you're going back to the pot and washing out your brush fairly regularly. And of course, hold the miniature at a good angle. Don't try to force the model to be in an uncomfortable position. Make sure you're relocating it as often as you need to. So now that we're done with all of our base coats, we're going to start with washes. I'm going to wash all the black parts with Nuln Oil, so that will be the entirety of the cloak, as well as the white undershirt that he's wearing. We're going to wash this in Nuln Oil as well, because we're going to go back over it with white in a later step. We want the lines to show up as a little bit darker, so we're going to wash those with Nuln Oil now. Next up, we're going to wash the brown bits of the model with Agrex Earthshade. That's going to include his beard, the leather straps, as well as the leather coverlet he is wearing. And the fleshy bits of the miniature are going to be washed with Reichland Flesh Shade. Just make sure you wash the knuckles quite well so you can get the details from the hands out so they can be picked out during the highlighting phase. Speaking of the highlighting phase, that's where we are now. We're going to start with some Eshin Gray on his black cloak. There are a lot of nice flowing folds on this black cloak. So just go through, take your time, and pick all of those folds and recesses out. Those little tears and holes at the bottom, you can pick those out as well. I also used Eshin Gray to pick out the individual feathers in his cloak. That just helped the cloak pop just a little bit more. So next up, we need to highlight the brown bits of Freca. That's going to include his hair, as well as the various leather straps that need to be highlighted. We're going to do that with Corthor Brown. So just go through. What I did is pick out some individual bits of his hair on the top of his head, as well as his beard and luxurious mustache, and just highlighted those with Corthor Brown. I also highlighted the very tips of the leather straps that cross the top of his chest. To highlight the skin, I used Cadian Flesh Tone to go back over some of the more prominent parts of the flesh. That would include his cheekbones, his eyebrows, his forehead, which is very prominent in the films, as well as his beefy knuckles. To finish painting his tunic, I used Ulthuan Grey Air just to go over the more prominent parts of the tunic, leaving the shaded parts intact. Next up, I needed to highlight his boots, so for that I used Talarn Sand to bring that brightness back into those boots.
The final step of painting this miniature is going to be painting the cool little tribal tattoos that Freca has all over his face. So for that, we're going to use Incubi Darkness So in order to paint these tribal tattoos, I referenced the artwork from the film. You can also reference the artwork from Games Workshop. He has some little tribal markings above his eyebrows, as well as some on his cheeks. So just get like a finely pointed brush and make some, small circular markings. And with those tribal tattoos complete, Freca is ready to go to war. I put some field basing underneath him to get him ready to go. He is ready to march up to the Hall of Hammerhand and get himself punched in the face. With that, I think we can call him completed. I think his vast cloak turned out looking pretty well. The gold trim came out looking pretty well, and he's ready to go. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.